Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a great honor to be in your midst. So very often, my wife and I, we go different directions. She goes to give a presentation to the north, I go to the south. But today we converge here, and this is a very special delight. When the lady, the poet, well, she said she's not a poet, when she recited the Easter song, she made an admission that she's not a poet. So I should admit to you too that I'm not a writer. The best that I have ever written is a check. But I must confess to you that I like to read. And I was reared on books. I gave a lecture about 2 or 3 weeks ago in which I said that in the house in which I was born, I was reared on books. They had them piled up for us to read. We had them even on the bed to give us warmth and companionship. Even my bed lamp, I had to place my bed lamp on books. And when I wanted to sit down, I had books piled on the floor as seats. And when I wanted to reach some places high in the room, I had books to stack up as ladder to be able to reach the highest height. And so over the years, I've lived with books. But I've come to realize that it's not books. Books are just the physical element of it. I have lived with people. I have lived with souls. As busy as I am, I still manage to read at least a book a week. And if I can, and if it's really, really busy for me, then perhaps a book in 2 weeks. My wife and I, we live with books. We work in a bookshop, and we're surrounded by books in the house. So in a sense, we live with writers, and we see writing everywhere we turn. This workshop has been put together to enable you to succeed as writers, to make you better writers. We applaud both the efforts of the organizers as well as the participants. Writing is not a natural thing, neither is it automatic. It is a skill that has to be learned and a skill that can be improved on, and that's why you are here. Essentially, you have to transfer knowledge, observations, thoughts into letters, into words, into sentences, build an order into them in order to get a message across. You have got to tell a story. So tell a story is a human legacy. The birds that you see out there, they teach their young ones how to sing. We hand over to our children, our family, and cultural foundations. It goes from one generation to another. Each of us is a story. Each of us is a story, a unique story. What transpired last year, last month, last week, last night, and an hour ago are all but stories. And when it comes to stories, we listen. And today, you may hear a bit of our story. You may have heard it said that there's nothing new under the sun. But under the sun, we are looking for fresh voices. And this is where you come in. So give us a fresher interpretation of the past, the present, and perhaps show us the future. We are looking for writing that will touch our emotions and capture our imagination. We invariably find ourselves, or people we know, or events that we have experienced or imagined in the writings that hold our attention. Someone who will portray our struggles. We are always looking for good readability, good writing, and someone with something pertinent to say. Every story holds the attention of the reader or the listener through four things: characterization, plot, language, and the story must not be a bore, which is all about our style, your writing DNA. Writing is an extension of speech. For you to write with ease, with just the way you speak. Remember, the reader is not a fool, and you cannot fool the reader. When the writing is forced, when it is artificial, the reader knows, and he's turned off. In time, there's a precision to it, and it takes a lifetime to master. And I mean that because even for Wole Soyinka, who is a Nobel laureate, remember the last one that he just did some 4 weeks ago, he still sent it round, and a draft got to me for me to look it over before it's presented. In other words, we continue to hone our skill. It's a lifetime assignment. There are 3 stages of work behind every writing. The gathering of material, the daydreaming and the contemplation of an idea that has taken root in the imagination. This is where the story is made. The story before the story. A writer builds the story first in his head, and then ultimately he begins to write. And once it's built, and very well built, and then you can then sit down to begin to set it on a computer or on a paper, and that's the actual writing. To write it as raw as it can be written, and let it flow. And then thirdly, the final stage is rewriting, self-editing, trying to achieve perfection. And I'll just give you an example. I have a book here. It's by J.P. Clark. And I'm sure many of you know J.P. Clark. This is his latest publication. It's called The Remains of a Tide. And when J.P. was publishing this book, he sent me a draft. And we looked it over. Okay? We looked it over, and sent it back to him with a few corrections. He also worked on it, okay, and then sent it back to me. We looked it over again, and we sent it back to him. Okay, and will you believe it? We did this 13 times. Wow. And at the end of the 13th time, my colleagues in the office now said, excuse me, sir, no, this is too much. Are we sure? And I said to them that we should indulge the man because he's writing poetry. And with poetry, there's something about precision. The full stop must sit comfortably. The commas must sit where it should go to. And the poet is very, very particular about the rhythm. And so we must indulge it. But in any event, I then wrote a note to JP. And I said, JP, this is the last. Okay? And this is the last. And then JP worked on it and sent it back to me. And you know what he did? What I said to him inspired another poem. So he sent back the script to me with an additional poem. And here is the poem. Note to my publisher. Wanting proofs final. Death alone, outside of faith, is final. All our acts on earth, being from birth, by trial and error, till that last breath. Well, I had no other choice. We had to take it. And finally, as they say in Nigeria, finally and finally, we went to press. And the book was done. And as you very well know, when a book is done, you give the author some advance copies. So when the book was done, I sent him 6 copies with a note, the JP, all done now. 6 copies of your book have been sent to you. Congratulations. And that's the book. Another week, JP called me. He said, Colade, which is my first name. You know, there's some foodstuffs. There's some foodstuff. There's a foodstuff that must go here and a comma that must go there. We'll have to redo it. This man was seeking perfection. And that's the way it is. It is not about short and right. It is to give it the very, very best. And so, this book had to be redone. And this is the backlog, which I can share right before you. Because now we have to do it again. Now we have to do it again. All your experiences, all your past experiences, they inform your writing and your identity as a writer and as a literate person. But I must let you know that to be a good writer, you first have to be a good reader. You've got to read other works before you. You must learn the skill. They give you ideas. They help your thoughts. And they help you with your style. In any event, if you do not read others, I wonder why they should read you. And so, please, when people come to me and claim that they are writers, and I ask what they have read lately, they are blank. That tells me the kind of material that I should expect from them. In coming here this afternoon, some questions were sent to me, and the questions that the organizers want me to address. Okay? And I will try and quickly address them before I give the microphone to the better speaker. Can anything good come out, the first one, can anything good come out of Africa? That's the first question. And my answer, surely, you are all good men and good women, and you must not let yourself be judged through the prisons of others. Enormous challenges in our part of the world, some of which your writing will highlight. And through you and other writers, we can find answers, redemption, and joy. Let us be honorable, and let us be proud of our continent. I can take our bookshop as an example, and I think we can place it anywhere in the world, and it will fit perfectly. In our own little way, we are proud Africans. I'm proud of what we are doing, and I'm sure you equally can do likewise and better. The next question, what kind of writing can have an impact in and outside Africa? Well, you see, the stories about human nature never get dated. You must understand the universality of man. Love is love. Tragedy is tragedy. War is war. Valor, sympathy, empathy, kindness, disloyalty, honesty, these are all human virtues, and they have universal appeal. This is why you can watch an American film and identify with it, as well as watch an Indian film and equally identify with them. Similarly so for Igbo and Hausa films. There will be subtle differences, but the human thread remains the same. Another question. What do indigenous writers need to be mindful of when writing for global market? You need to be mindful of good writing. You also need to be mindful of good publishing. And finally, you also need to be mindful of good printing. Some of the books that we publish here will not pass overseas, either in quality or in content, because the writing is sloppy. The editorial work is weak. The publishing equally weak. And the printing, I'm afraid, does not quite meet it. For people who have lived overseas, if a book were to come to the bookshop this way, just the cover, this way, you know, for us here, what's the big deal? You bring it out, it's rejected. So if you want that, if you want that global market, you must hike up. Okay? You must believe in it. You must hike up. And the talent is within you all. okay, to do well, okay, and be the best in the world. Our stories enchant, and they may offer answers to the mysteries of the universe. How can our books be relevant? Another question. How can our books be relevant to development in Africa? Except if you're writing a developmental book, you do not specifically write for the development of Africa. You write according to your own spirit. What moves you? What you are particular about? What you want to say? If in doing so, it has a continental appeal, so be it. When Achebe wrote Things Fall Apart, he did so in some sense to refute the characterization in Joyce's Carey, Mr. Johnson. I'm not sure, if you're into literature, you will know Mr. Johnson and Conrad's Heart of Darkness, and the lurid descriptions in there of Africa. So he showed an expression, a different form of language that is very rich in idioms. And you know, Things Fall Apart is a very small, 150, 160 something pages. But so beautifully written and the message so well conveyed. He showed it is a book that has resonated where cultures have been torn apart, and equally in the country of the invaders. There are so many things clamoring for attention in this country that you can write about. There's some election going on in different parts of the country that may hold your interest. The corruption in the country is systemic. There's so many things that may strike your fancy that you all can write about. Okay, so it's not for me to say here. But if it's sound enough, and if it's very, very well written, it will reach beyond the shores of this land. I also have here that I should say a word or two about publishing, because so very often not many people know what it's all about. As a matter of fact, there's a confusion between publishing and printing. The publisher is a person or entity in the apex of a book chain who undertakes the making of the book from scratch to placing it in the hands of the readers. A number of activities are lumped into this linear chain. But let us start from creation, the conception of a book. A manuscript may arise in the head of an author, or it may be commissioned work undertaken by an author at the request of a publisher. Any of you may want to write. Even your teachers, your friends, your lecturers may want to write on any subject. For whatever reasons, the author emerges as the writer, often the content creator. It is the publisher's role to acquire this content and develop it further. I should remind you, there's a collegial effort to writing. Anytime you see a good book, it is a work of many efforts put into it. Not necessarily the work of many authors. The author has done the creation, he's written it, and then he or she submits to the publishing house. And editors are assigned to really look through the material, to look at the syntax, to look at the sentence construction, to look at the logic, and to help the book further than it would have been. Sometimes, you all know this, sometimes when you have written something and you look it over, you think it's perfect, and you give it to the next person, and he sees your errors here and there. So you need that kind of expertise to help you with the content. And a good editor will also be able to help you. Not totally rewrite the book for you, no. Okay? But the editor is a critique, okay? Trying to help you, bring you out to be the best, trying to help that material. So editorial work is not a light assignment. It requires very close attention to every detail in the manuscript. Editing often defines the quality of a publishing house. So very often we find books that are so poorly edited and shoved on students by an equally incompetent Ministry of Education or sloppy university teachers. The editorial process is a very rigorous exercise in the making of the book. And when the book is edited, it will have to be designed to make it appealing and to aid readability. There's a careful selection of fonts, styles, space, and illustrations to assist in the presentation of the book. The book is then given a unique and identifiable architecture. When this is done, the production process is complete for the actual printing of the manuscript to bring them out in huge numbers. This huge production of the book is done by the printer, who may or may not be the extension of the publishing house. Printing processes are often standalone businesses to industrially mass-produce books and allied matter. Just as the publisher relates to the author with content, so also does it relate with the printer on mass production. Many people, including educational and government officers, noting that physical books emerge from the printer, so very often misconceive the printers as publishers. Printers have very little to do with content. They just run out whatever content must have been submitted to them to print, in whatever quantity they may have been contracted to produce. The printer is the last leg of the production chain. While the book is nearing production, the publisher, using his marketing staff, develops a promotion and marketing program for the book. They would necessarily have to address how to get the books into the market and into the hands of the readers. And when the book is finally out, in Nigeria, it is released with a lot of fanfare to draw attention to it and to channel it through the various modes by which the books will be sold. I came in when the gentleman was speaking about some e-sales. To sell the book to the end users, it entails all sorts of selling modes. And I have just given an example there. So the publisher, from the description I have given so far, is a coordinator and a manager of the value chain and an investor in the book of production. He invests in the structure that will seek out authors, pay for the design and production of books, pay for the promotion and marketing of books, and allow credit to booksellers for books given to them. It is only when the readers begin to buy that returns are made to him, for him to recoup his investments and make profit. And like all businesses, profit is not guaranteed. Even the recoupment of his investment is not guaranteed. But then the publisher in time develops what is called a backlist, as well as some ancillary sales along his front list, which is his current publication. The total of which should make the entire business profitable. As you write, the chances are high you will submit your manuscripts to the publishers. If you have never done before, I know you will, and I must warn that in all probability, they may reject you. When they reject you, let it not bruise your ego, but never give up. Some of the best writers in this world will tell you about rejections, but never, never give up. But then I must also warn you, because you have a pen and because you have a computer, doesn't mean that you're a good writer. So do not think that because you have written something, you have written something of worth. So you too, you have work to do. But in any event, if you wrote something and gave it to 50, 80 people seated here, you will have 80 perspectives, and they will help you as an audience. And that's the kind of audience that will taste your book. I hope I have given one or two words about the assignment given to me. Now I'll call on Tolani to take it. Thank you.